And so once I closed the door, I remember turning around to my son. I was like, what do you guys think? And all we could talk about was this. Hi, I'm Christine Siddons, and welcome to the One Tough Mama podcast. I am a Christian wife and a mom to 8 children. And some of those children are adopted. And I say that just to preface my podcast because it is about our adoption story. And so it is part 2 of our adoption story. Part 1, if you haven't listened to it or watched it, I will link it at the end of this video. So go check that out so you hear the whole genesis of our adoption story. So once we reopened our home study, oldest son was about 17. And so I started inquiring on kids. And at that time, online, you could go visit different states' websites. They were called heart galleries. And you could go check them out and view kids' pictures. And some of them had videos. But they all had like a little bio. And so you could read about them, see if you felt like they were a good match or not. And so I had kind of like a running list of ones that were possibilities. And then I also called different foster care agencies in our state. And at the time, that was okay. But now they really frown upon that. So I don't suggest doing that. I don't know, whatever, it's up to you. But at the time, I would call different agencies in the state and I would say, hey, do you guys have any kids available for adoption? And can you tell me about them? So then I would keep notes of the ones that sounded like they were a good fit and I would like to know more about. And then I don't know if I found out through a different worker or through our caseworker that there was going to be an adoption event up north of our state. And so would we like to go? Yes, let's go. Let's check it out. And so an adoption event, I don't even know if they have them anymore. I don't think our state hosts them anymore, but other states might. I don't know. So an adoption event is basically where prospective adoptive parents go and then they meet kids that are up for adoption. And then there's caseworkers, foster parents there as well. So you can ask questions. And obviously they're not just dropping off the kids to random strangers. So my husband and my son, we took my son with us, and that way he could meet the children and we can get his input and his opinion as well. We drove up, it's probably about 5 hours away. And where this adoption event was an old Western movie set. And so if you could picture dirt, dust, cowboy, old wooden, Western bars, the saloons, just the old Western movies, tumbleweeds. That's it. Okay. So that's where they hosted the adoption event. And then the worker that I had talked to the most, she had told me about a few kids. There was a sibling group, or I think there was a couple sibling groups. Yeah, there was a sibling group of 4, there was a sibling group of 3, and then there was also a few singles that were on my list that I took up there that I really wanted to meet. And granted, the list and the information that we had on the kids was very, very limited. They told us if they were single, so just one kid, their age and their name. And then if they're sibling groups, how many there were, obviously, and then their names and their ages. We didn't know their ethnicities, their race, anything else other than their names and their ages, and if they were siblings or not. And none, they didn't even tell us if they have special needs or nothing. So literally we were just going off of either the information that I found on these children online or from the very little bit that social worker or other social workers informed us about. So when we went up there, the worker, she had told me, and she wasn't our worker, she was from another agency up north. She had told me, go find the table with the canopy, and this is kind of what I look like. And so we found the table. Once we drove up, we found the table, and then to register. So we registered, and I asked her, I was really, really interested in, my husband and I had talked and gone over the kids, and he was just more, because I did more research, so I was the one who was more yes or no, and like, oh, we got to meet these kids. And my husband was just like, okay, let's meet them, whatever. So we were really wanting to meet one single kid. And I think he did have special needs. And then sibling group of 4. Those were the 2 top ones that I wanted to meet. And then, like I said, there was a sibling group of 3 and another single kid that were really on my list. And so I had asked the lady at the front, I said, "Hey," when we registered, I said, "Hey, are these kids here?" And I named their names, and she was like, they're over there, and then these ones haven't come yet." So the sibling group of 4 wasn't there yet. So when it first started, after we registered, we had to go wait under this big canopy area. And so all the prospective parents, and we all got our Western bandanas. So the prospective parents and then the children that were available to adopt had red bandanas that we tied around our neck. And then the social workers had purple bandanas that they tied around their neck. That way, you could tell who's who. And obviously, if the kid didn't have a bandana on, you don't talk to them and stuff like that. So we all had to go meet under this canopy before we got started. And then they went over the rules and how the thing was going to progress. So some of the rules were what to say, what not to say to the children, and then how to kind of approach them. And so obviously, like you can't approach a child and say, "Hey, if you come live with me, then you're going to have a pony and you're going to have," you can't promise them things that you don't know that you're going to even be able to give them, because you don't know if you're going to even be able to adopt them. So you can't say, your room's going to look like this or that. You have to be very vague, very general questions. What's your favorite ice cream? What song is that kind of thing. And don't make any promises that you can't keep, because these kids obviously have been through it and they don't need any more broken promises. So once they released us, it was just kind of really strange, because here we are, strangers to these children. And I'm not one to just usually go up to kids that I don't know anyway. And so they had different booths. They had like a rock climbing wall. They had craft tables. They did have things that you could go and kind of make casual conversation and like icebreakers that you could do with the kids. Roping, I think panning for gold, Western style cowboy kind of stuff. And so much of the morning was a blur. I do remember a couple of things. We were just walking around and I was really, like I said, had my eye on a few kids. And so the one kid that I was interested in, when we found him, we were like waiting to other parents kept talking to this kid, and we didn't want to interrupt and like, "Hey, no, I want to talk to him," and "No, I'm talking to him." And so when we did kind of approach this kid, other couple cut right in and did the exact same thing that I was just talking about. And so that was kind of strange. That was really, I don't know, these adoption events I have very mixed feelings about adoption events. Some good and some bad. The negatives are that I felt like a lot of the parents felt very competitive. Like they had to talk to this kid. They had to hoard this kid's attention. It was just so weird. And it's like these kids know that you're being pushy. These kids know that and so if it was ever anything like that, we just backed away. And if, we thought if we got another opportunity to talk to these kids, then we would just take it. If not, it wasn't meant to be. We knew going to the adoption event, we had prayed, "God, if you have children for us, let us know. Let us know, okay, these are our kids. We're not gonna, I don't want any doubt. Is this our kid?" And, I want to know that I know. And we had other people in the church praying for us as well. And so we went in there with a confidence that God had our back. And so competing for a kid just felt very wrong for us. And so we just kind of moseyed around, and some of the kids, we were able to talk to their foster parents and ask questions without approaching the children and making them feel uncomfortable too much. And you can observe how they interacted with each other if they were siblings, or how they interacted with the staff and the other foster parents and things like that. And you would be like, you try to make conversation if you could, but some of the kids just obviously did not want to be there. I mean, honestly, it is very uncomfortable. And I'm sure the older kids and probably the younger ones too knew why they were there. And in a sense, it's almost like a puppy or a pet adoption. And so we were looking, and, you're not finding the prettiest kid or whatever, but you're finding the kid that fits you and you fit them. And it's just kind of weird. So anyway, so I kept inquiring about this sibling group of 4 because I had met the sibling group of 3, and, and then I met a couple of the other singles that, or not necessarily met them, but was able to observe and or talk to a foster parent, caseworker kind of thing on those kids. But the sibling group before just was not showing up. And so I was like, man, they're on my list. Like, I want to meet them. They, I don't know why, just something about them. I was like, I want to find out about the sibling group. And so we were probably like halfway through and, again, just observing, watching, trying to talk to other kids, foster parents. And I had to use the restroom. And so they had a lineup of porta potties. And so I just literally went over to the porta potties. And prior to that, the worker, and I want to say her name was Valerie, and I'm probably wrong, but I'm going to call her Valerie for the sake of this podcast. So Valerie had said, I think that they're going to come. Sorry, my foot is stuck. Okay, so Valerie had said, I think that they're on their way, that they should be here soon. And so I was like, okay, fine. I'm hot. We were drinking water. So while we were waiting and we were just kind of like, what do? We were just kind of standing around. I'm like, I need to go to the bathroom. And if those kids are on their way, I want to go to the bathroom and be done with that before we meet them, because I don't want to like interrupt our time if we actually get to spend time with them. So there was a whole row kind of in the back of the set. I'm going to call it a set because that's what it was, of porta potties. So I just went into I went to go into the first porta potty, and literally this boy came out, and I was like, something in my heart was like, this is him. But again, I know nothing what they look like. We know only their names and their ages. And so at the time, the ages were of the sibling group 2, 7, 9, and 10. So there was 3 boys and 1 girl. So again, the ages were 2, 7, 9, and 10. And so when I went to the bathroom, like I said, this boy who looked to be about 9, 10, 11 years old, walked out of the bathroom, and we literally like ran into each other. And I was like, I wonder, like something in me is just kind of was like, you know. And so I went to the bathroom and I was trying to listen because by the bathrooms, you could walk over and there was like a portable hand washing station and things like that. So I kind of looked, and as I'm going into the bathroom and shutting the door, and there was 3 boys, 1 girl, and a social worker. So I was like, I wonder if that's the sibling group of 4. So I'm trying to listen for like any names, if, the social worker is saying any names or anything spoken that would give me clues that this is a sibling group that I've been waiting for. So not really, no clues. I didn't hear anything. So after I went to the bathroom, I went to go wash my hands, and they were still there. And so I asked the worker, I said, I am Christine Siddons, and I talked to so-and-so. Are these blah, 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 blah? And I named their names. And she's like, yes. So I said, you are the ones that I've been waiting to meet. And so right away, this worker, she is, and I'll call her Elle, and she introduced me. So, and the kids just were like, okay. The youngest, the 2-year-old, was in one of those like umbrella strollers. And then the girl, she had a headband on with like a red flower. And I want to say that she had a tank top and like jean shorts. I think the 2-year-old had a yellow tank top with like navy blue decor on it, like on the outside, and just some kind of pull-up shorts. Now they all didn't have their bandanas on yet. And so, and I don't remember what the other 2 boys had on. But anyway, so I was like, okay, let's go over and let me get my husband and my son. So I'm trying to walk with the worker and the 4 kids and find my husband and son so we could kind of all meet. And so when that happened, we were just like, hey, I'm Christine, this is Robert, this is, Jared. And we were just like, introducing each other. And the social worker just kind of was just like, here, take the 4 kids. And we're like, what? You're not gonna, I don't know. That was our introduction. And so we took them to go play games. We took them to go eat and rock climb and all that kind of stuff. She pretty much just, here's the kids. I'm going to stand in the background and just let things happen. So it was about lunchtime. So we took the kids in the line, and I just remember that the girl just kept staring at me, very, very weary, like wary and suspicious. And at the same time, there was another teenage girl who had some kind of special needs, and she kept like linking her arm in mine and making talk with me, and we were having conversations, and we were like kind of torn between paying attention to her and paying attention to the four. And I think that they were all from the same agency, the same city. So anyway, I was trying, I think I was pushing the stroller and we were trying to talk to the kids. And like I said, the sister was just staring at me very suspicious, like, who are you? Who are you? What are you doing with me and my brothers? And that kind of thing. So we're waiting in line and the lunch is burgers and hot dogs, and it's under another big canopy. Hey, if you know me, I use Stone and Spear, and so I just want to show you some of the products that I use. I use the anti-aging face cream, and I like the citrus vanilla scent, and so most of my stuff is that scent, but you can get it in other scents as well. The moisturizing face cream. Okay, so this is something new. This powder toothpaste, excuse my finger there. It is a toothpaste powder, and it does take some getting used to, and I'm not 100% sold on it, but I know some people use the powder, and that's in peppermint, and I have 2 different lipsticks, one in like this autumn peppermint and another one in flamingo peppermint, and I kind of mix them up. I have them mixed on my lips right now. And then I love this moisturizing tallow stick, again in citrus vanilla. And you guys know that I literally buy this by the pack. Is my favorite lip balm in the whole wide world is the Stone and Spear. This is what sold me on their company. And if you could go in our bathrooms, you would see the soap bars, the shampoo bars, and it's wonderful. And the shampoo bars are great. And we use soap bars too. Our son, who has special needs, he has cerebral palsy, and so it's very hard for him to pump any kind of pump, and then this is a natural product. So Stone and Spear, the link is in the show notes, and you can get 10% off if you use my link. Thank you. So once I found out what it is, hot dogs or burgers, I was like, do you guys like hot dogs? Do you like burgers? So they're trying to tell me what they like. And then when we get up there, the whole day was just kind of like, follow the leader, figure it out for yourself, a mix of both. And so we're used to having 2 kids. We're used to taking 2 kids' orders. And here we have 4 plus our oldest son. So we're trying to figure out what all 4 kids want to eat, plus get food for ourselves. So then we find a place with enough room on the table for all, that would be 7 of us. So we find a place kind of at the end, outside of the tent, the canopy area. And I remember I'm sitting on this side. So it was me, and I had the little one on my lap, my husband, and my son, I think my son, literally, I don't even know if him and the 7-year-old even ate. They literally just hit it off, and they just kept doing the rock climbing wall, and he was just like up and down the rock climbing wall. So like I said, I had the toddler on my lap, and then the 10 and 9-year-old. And so we were just making conversation, and the 10-year-old, the one that I ran into out of the bathroom, he was quiet. And then the sister, we were just, oh, I like your headband. Like I said, just making very small talk. And so we were like, what's your favorite foods? Do you have TV shows that you like? What grades are you in? Like just general questions. One specific question that I remember was, what kind of music are you guys into? And they didn't really know what kind of music they were into, but the sister had a favorite song. And so her song was Why You Gotta Be So Rude. And I was like, I never heard of that song, but I ended up looking it up after the event was over on the way home. I ended up looking it up, and I would end up really liking that song. And there's more about that song that I'll talk about later. So anyway, we were just making small talk, and it was kind of uncomfortable. Some of it came natural. Some of it it was a struggle. And the 2-year-old, he didn't want to eat. He was so bouncy and so just energetic, energy. And we had an empty water bottle, and he kept trying to put the hot dog in, hot dog out, hot dog in, hot dog out, hot dog in. And he was just up and down, up and down, up and down. And the worker came up, and she's like, oh, I see you know how to handle babies and toddlers, and you seem like you're right at home. We have to change his diaper. Is there a place to change him? And so we literally just found some table that was in one of the sets and changed him on some looked like a bar saloon that we were in, and we just changed him on one of those tables. So while we were changing his diaper, I was just grilling her with questions because we seemed to really like, okay, these kids, like it felt like they were the ones. And so I was like, do they have any behaviors? And I think I probably asked her that probably way too many times. No, not that I know of, because, this and this and this. And she was just going on and talking about the kids. And I was asking questions. And again, do they have any behaviors? What behaviors do they have? Do they have any of these kind of behaviors that I knew like that were going to be hard to handle? No, no, no. And so I was like, okay, that was like, whew, right? And so once we just kind of hung out for the day, going like from booth to just kind of, what do you guys want to do? What do you guys want to do? And like I said, the 7-year-old was just, right? He just literally was all over the place. And the 2-year-old was adorable, adorable. He was very chubby and, just squishy and just super smiley and the music, dancing to the music. And everybody wanted to stop and talk to the 2-year-old. And I was starting to get possessive of the 2-year-old. Again, we're just here, just, inquiring on him and checking them out. But I was like, these are my kids. And so a couple times when the other foster parents would try to like comment on him or try to talk to him and ask me questions about him like I knew, I was just like, well, he has 3 other siblings. And then they would walk away because honestly, not a lot of people want a big sibling group. And to a lot of people, 4 kids is a big group. And so I would just kind of throw that in. And I took off his bandana. He kept taking it off. I kept putting it on. I'm like, forget it. Just take it off. I don't want you to seem like you're available anyway. And so I just took it off and I left it off hanging on the stroller. And I think I even took mine off after a while because these are our kids. Like I knew in my heart that feeling that I got when I ran into the 10-year-old boy out of the porta potty, like these are my kids. That was my son. And we joked a few times about that. And so anyway, they left before we did. So I remember the caseworker Elle, she was like, okay, we're going to get going. We have a long drive back. And so I was like, okay. And we didn't say, we'll see you later or anything because we don't want to give the kids any hope that we're going to take you home. We're going to end up adopting you because at the next stage would be to tell our worker, okay, hey, we met these kids at the event and we want to find out more. And then you go to the next phase of the adoption process. And the kids have no idea what you think of them. Nothing. Okay. So when we were saying our goodbyes, I think the worker was like, okay, you can say goodbye. I don't remember if my husband knows this part, but if she made them all give us a hug or something. But the sister, she gave us hugs and she was like, tell Christine, she told my husband, tell Christine that I really like her. And so I was like, okay, that's a plus because I was kind of feeling like she was very suspicious of me and was very wary and just kind of like had her guard up, which I totally get. So after we said our goodbye, I told us all, I said, we will be in touch. And I kept saying, I'm gonna be in contact with you. I'm gonna have my worker talk to you. I'm trying to let her know, like, we are very interested in these kids. And again, our kids were not on the Heart Gallery. So I didn't have any bio information about them or anything. So we kind of stayed and hung around. We took another little tour with the teenagers. If you were interested in a teenager, you could go on this extra tour. And my husband and I, we love history. And so we actually found that girl that was arm in arming with me and we went on the tour with her. But after spending time with the sibling group before, we were just like, the sibling group is ours. And so we went on the tour and then we went home. So before I get to the story about when we went home, I just want to just give you a couple of observations that I noticed. Again, the competition between some of the parents, like literally one of the times, I think it was a pony ride, and that boy that was on my list that we were going to go up to meet, a parent, a mom, and her husband literally just like cut us off as we're about ready to say, hey, hi, I'm, so-and-so and so-and-so. They literally just cut us off and they just kind of like encapsulated the little boy and was just giving us the eye, like, you can't talk to him. So I was like, okay. And then another station had calf roping, the calf head. And there was kids roping. And some of the parents were so over enthusiastic. It was just like, really? Oh, that was so good. Or just like, you all are trying too hard. And maybe they don't know how to be parents. Maybe they don't have any kids. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being judgy. But the kids didn't care that they were so enthusiastic. And again, it was like we were cut off again. And then some of the kids you go to try to talk to, they're just blank, just blank. And some of them won't even look at you. One of the boys that was on my list, we were like, my name is Christine and this is Robert. And he literally turned around, turned his back to us and walked away. And so we're like, okay, we're respecting that. And then later on, we found that boy. And this is such a sad story. So we found the boy and he was going up to another foster parent and he's like, "Is my brother here? Is my brother here?" And unfortunately, his brother didn't come to the event and that little boy was crushed, so crushed. And that is one of the unfortunate things in foster care, that a lot of times siblings do get separated. And in some situations, that's totally appropriate to separate siblings. And I will talk about that in another podcast. But this boy was absolutely devastated. And I was just done. I was like, my heart broke for that boy. And then there was a teenager that was just standing off, just like, why am I here? Why am I here? Nobody wants a teenager. Nobody's talking to me. And I didn't want a teenager. We didn't want a teenager either. But I felt so bad for him that I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to talk. So I just ended up talking to him. Obviously, we didn't inquire about him, but I just felt so bad. And he was just standing there with I'm assuming it was his worker or his foster dad. And it was almost like I've been here so many times and I've never gotten picked. It was very hard to watch. Some of the foster parents, now that I've been through it, I know the look on their face. I know the struggles and the look in their eyes, because some of the foster parents had almost that dazed look that the kids had. And I understand now. One foster dad that I was able to talk to about a sibling group that we were very interested as well. He was honest, and I am very thankful that he was honest. And he was like, the little girl has this behavior and this behavior. And so I was like, okay, that is more than what we can handle. And that was good. Because then I was like, okay, we're not the right parents for them. And so back to when we were leaving. So we were walking back to our car and I had felt very excited. I felt weird because all this, like I said, it's almost like a pet adoption, a pet parade kind of thing. Just all the emotions, kind of the things that I just went over. And I remember getting into the car, my husband got in, and I am sitting on the edge with my feet out, trying to get all the go-heads out of my sandals. And I was just like, oh my gosh, and my son, who was supposedly adamantly against us adopting, he was so excited. And so once I closed the door, I remember turning around to my son, and I was like, what do you guys think? And all we could talk about was a sibling group of 4. So we knew God answered our prayers, like those are our kids. And so as soon as we got back, and I believe that was like on a Friday or Saturday. So once the office opened back home, I called our worker and I let him know we met these kids and we want to know more about them. Let's take the next step. So that is how we met the 4 kids. And then you're going to have to hear about the next part in part 3.